Hey guys! Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from usual, but I'm really excited about it and I think you guys are really gonna like it too. So obviously Avengers Endgame is just the biggest thing out there right now, and after I saw it I was just absolutely bowled over by how epic the whole thing was, and like I'm sure many of you were too, I was so happy after I had finished watching it because I could finally go back on the internet without having to worry about spoilers anymore. And when I did get back on social media and finally got to stop censoring everything, I came across a couple of articles theorizing about what the Avengers would have majored in if they went to college. Now, as a Columbia University girl, and as someone who does academic consulting and college counseling, helping people decide what they might major in is a huge part of my day-to-day life. And beyond that, even helping people find what their dream colleges are, and then helping them get into their dream colleges. So I started wondering, where would the Avengers go to college if they finally just had the chance to retire from saving the world and got to settle down and have that traditional undergraduate experience? So I wanted to make this video to answer that question, and to avoid any weird timeline or multiverse thingies, just to lay down some ground rules, this is about the Avengers as they appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as opposed to the comic books, and I guess it's in some alternate universe where they finally just got the chance to live normal lives and see what they missed out on during all that time they spent fighting, saving the world, and generally kicking butt. Though, I mean, if the Avengers going to college requires more suspension of belief than the actual movies themselves, I don't know if we've been watching the same thing. And while, yes, of course, I have seen Endgame and it may influence my choices to some degree, I will not be spoiling anything from the movie in this video, and if I do mention anything from Endgame at all, I will make that very clear in advance so you guys can pause the movie or skip ahead or whatever you need to do. So you can absolutely watch this video without having seen Endgame, or heck, even any of the movies at all. So I'll be doing the original 6 from the movies, except for Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, just because that's a whole tangle that I can't even begin to get into because he apparently canonically went to Desert State University for undergrad, which doesn't actually exist, and then apparently also did stuff at Penn State and Harvard, and possibly also Caltech, and then in Thor Ragnarok he says that he has 7 PhDs, which, whoa, okay Bruce, you've definitely earned being left alone in that regard. But everyone else? Fair game. I'll even be discussing Iron Man, who canonically went to MIT, just because I want to get into why I think that is such a great choice for him. So be sure to stay tuned until the end for everyone's favorite emotionally complicated playboy. And now I think that's all the exposition I wanted to get out of the way, so be sure to like and subscribe, and you can always get in touch with me if you have any questions, especially if you're a current high schooler who needs help figuring out where they should go to college. And yeah, that should be everything. So now, on with the show.
He did try to kill me.
Yes, me too, on many occasions. There was one time when we were children, he transformed himself into a snake, and he knows that I love snakes. So I went to pick up the snake to admire it, and he transformed back into himself, and he was like, "Yeah, it's me!" And he stabbed me. We were 8 at the time.
So I have a headcanon that Thor in college would definitely at least try and study astrophysics to impress Jane, but would fail miserably and almost flunk out, but would save himself at the last possible second by, what else? Changing majors. Now, I thought long and hard about what kind of a place could nurture someone like Thor, and that necessitated thinking about what kind of a path would be best for him. Now, I think that one of the biggest surprises in the MCU had to have been the revelation that Chris Hemsworth is actually really freaking funny. And I could absolutely see Thor thriving in a place where he's able to explore improv, stand-up comedy, writing sitcoms. I mean, the guy is, what, 1,500 years old? He's got to have a lot of life experience to draw from. So at first I was thinking Harvard of all places, just because their comedy scene is actually like really something else. I mean, Conan O'Brien is an alum from there. And they have the Harvard Lampoon, which dates all the way back to 1876, though that's actually really young compared to someone like Thor. And their comedy improv groups are actually really, really well known. And also, Harvard is, of course, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so Thor should feel right at home with their, like, -50°F weather. But then I looked at Harvard, and I looked at Thor, and I looked at Harvard, and I looked at Thor, and I was like, okay, maybe he needs a safety. And that's completely valid, because it's never been Thor's jaw-dropping intellect that swept audiences across the world off their feet. And that's okay. So then I started thinking about where else Thor might feel at home, and that's where I've come up with what I think would be an excellent choice for Thor's alma mater. Emerson College. They have a really highly ranked comedy writing and performance major, which I really do think would be right up Thor's alley, and in addition, they have a minor in global and post-colonial studies. And I think that would just be really helpful for Thor because, yeah, he spent a lot of time on Earth avenging stuff with the Avengers, but how much does he really know beyond what he's seen in battle? Getting a handle on what Earth is like as a whole beyond the little he's seen of it could give him a much healthier perspective on exactly what it is he's trying to save here. They also have a bustling fraternity system, and I don't know about you, but I could definitely see Thor just thriving as a fraternity bro. And of course, it's located in Boston, so Thor would still have that Winter Wonderland thing going on for Asgard's very own Santa Claus. Trust me, he would feel right at home.
The rest of us have one job: tear these things apart. You get hurt, hurt them back. You get killed, walk it off.
I feel like you're forced to really go deep with Cap if you want to even describe, like, his personality, much less where he would go to college. He doesn't necessarily have just one single defining trait, like Hawkeye has his bow and arrows, and Tony has his sarcasm. I know, Cap has his shield, and his patriotism, and, like, his scrappiness, but those are all different things that combine to create an actually multifaceted person, which is a great thing. But it means that it's hard to actually get a handle on who Steve Rogers is. But, you guys, I think I've done it. Are you ready for this? I think Steve Rogers should go to Columbia. And I promise, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Columbia girl and Steve is my favorite Avenger, and implicit bias and explicit bias and disclaimers and yada yada yada. Okay, I'll admit that it maybe had a little bit of influence, but that's it. Hear me out, you guys. Steve is a Brooklyn guy at heart. He is such a Brooklyn guy, so it would break both his heart and mine to take him out of New York to go to college. And even though Columbia isn't necessarily in Brooklyn per se, it's, an hour's ride away tops by subway? But beyond that, I was really trying to think about what the heart of Captain America is. And what I came up with is that I think Steve has this thing inside of him that will not let him rest when innocent lives are in danger. Like, you know how when you see something really cute, like a puppy or a grandparent, you get the urge to squeeze it, but you're able to ignore that impulse and not go on a murderous rampage every time you see something cute? Well, I think Cap has that same impulse, except instead of wanting to squeeze cute things, he wants to save innocent people, and instead of being able to ignore it, well, he just can't. So in an alternate universe in which he actually had the chance to go to college, instead of the military just being all, Steve, no, and Steve being all, Steve, yes, until they let him in, you can bet your buttons that he would have been such a social justice warrior in the very best possible sense of the term. Columbia is a huge campus for activism, and it's consistently included at the top of lists for the most politically and socially active students. And what's more, I did a little bit of digging, and what I found out is that during World War II, Columbia University's Morningside Heights campus was used as one of the biggest training bases for the U.S. Navy until 1945. Columbia made its buildings open to the military. More than 15,000 Columbia students and personnel actively fought in World War II. They trained medics at Columbia. Columbia actually has a very rich history of fighting Nazis, and I don't think I need to tell you which of the Avengers also has a rich history of fighting Nazis. Finally, Columbia has a fairly unique human rights program that I think Cap would both really love and really, really benefit from. While our favorite star-spangled man with a plan is top-notch with the shield, there are times when the techie talk of Tony Stark and Bruce Banner escapes him, or when he could benefit from having the theoretical side of things dumbed down a little bit. I'm currently working right now with some of my clients who are hoping to apply to Columbia and major in human rights because it's such a specialized way of looking at the world, and studying human rights at a university that's birthed presidents and Nobel Peace Prize winners would, I think, give Cap the perfect intellectual complement to his already A+ crime-fighting skills. I just want to say one last thing about Cap before we move on to our next Avenger. While I was coming up with where I thought they would all go to school, I talked it out with some friends, and some of them thought that Cap would for sure go to West Point, the United States Military Academy, because it's in New York and it's literally the college for the Army. Now, while I can definitely see the argument for Steve Rogers, who did serve in the military, to go to a military college, I want to remind you all that this kind of takes place in an alternate universe where it's post-MCU, post-Endgame, post all of that stuff, and the Avengers just finally have a chance to go to college after everything that happened. So I'm just going to say one thing really quickly about Endgame. So if you haven't seen it, I don't think it's a spoiler, but just in case, I'm going to give you guys a few moments if you want to pause or skip ahead. Okay, moment over. So literally all I'm saying about Endgame is that after watching it, I don't think Steve would want to go back to the military. I think he would want to have that chance at living life as a civilian that was basically stolen from him. And that's why I would choose, for Steve Rogers, Columbia over West Point. Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk.
We need you to come in.
Are you kidding? I'm working.
This takes precedence.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation. This moron is giving me everything.
I don't give everything.
Oh boy, my mouth is dry. The sacrifices I make for you guys. First of all, Black Widow is obviously best known for being an incredible spy and assassin, but you know what? I could really see her excelling in psychology. Everything just kind of points to this being a great field of study for Natasha, from how she gets inside Loki's head, to how she tricks Tony, to how she plays matchmaker for Steve. I mean, I could go on. I could also see her working with kids specifically, given her own tragic backstory. And then finally, Black Widow is someone who I always see as someone who's really working and wanting to better herself, so I could definitely see her taking advantage of all the really small niche departments at a big research institution for college. So my top pick for her would probably be the University of Pennsylvania, and I'd say she's actually the easiest one to work this out for me at least. Penn is constantly and consistently ranked really highly in its psychology department, and specifically they've done a lot of work in developmental psychology over the past few decades. Nat would have access to the Penn Child Research Center, and if she did the honors program, she would complete an independent year-long research project, which I can totally see her knocking out of the park. And then she would definitely be able to use some of the courses to hone her interrogation skills even further, like physiology of motivated behavior, judgment and decision making, and drugs, brain, and mind. Also, Nat speaks a bunch of different languages, including Latin, despite what Tony Stark would have to say about that. And Penn is also really well known for having a huge languages department with over 40 different foreign languages. Nat is already an internationally recognized spy with just a few languages, so imagine what she could do with access to an Ivy League foreign languages education. And then of course UPenn has a lot of opportunities for Natasha to continue her martial arts training and maybe even pick up a few new skills along the way, both with official classes and clubs and everything from Taekwondo to boxing, which of course we all know Black Widow is infamous for. Happy best of all! I could also see an argument being made for Cambridge University, since it is a world center for global intelligence and international work, so her spy skills would probably flourish there, but my top pick is still UPenn.
We got this. It's good. Go.
You think you can hold him off?
Captain, it'd be my genuine pleasure.
Guys, let me get this straight. We as a nation, nay, as a world, need to stop sleeping on Clint Barton. This is a family man who is doing his best, and yet he is criminally underrated in the Marvel fandom. And you know what? It breaks my heart. And may I remind you, Hawkeye was there in the battle against Loki, and the Avengers won. Hawkeye was there in the battle against Ultron, and the Avengers won. Hawkeye wasn't there in the Infinity War battle against Thanos, and, well, I think we all know what happened. Or, better, what didn't happen.
Start? I don't feel so good.
Appreciate Clint Barton 2K19. So what does all this mean? Well, what it means is that even after everything, Hawkeye's still got a wife and kids to take care of. So even if he were to retire, he's still gonna be pretty busy. So when I started picturing where he would go to college, I couldn't really envision him just doing the normal undergraduate freshman thing. Instead, it made a lot more sense to me to think of Clint going the adult learner path, where people can get their bachelor's degrees and advance their professional prospects even when they're older than the traditional undergraduate age. And that's something that a lot of schools are way more open to nowadays. Even places like Harvard, UPenn, Yale, Columbia, they have so many options for adult learners going back to school. I also think that it would be best for Clint to have access to either online or on-campus courses, just in case duty calls while he's in the middle of a really popping lecture. And finally, I can't see Hawkeye hanging up his bow anytime soon, even if just for practice. So, my top pick for Mr. Clint Barton would be, drumroll please, James Madison University. JMU is a public research university in Virginia that has world-class archery training facilities, like best-kept secret levels of awesomeness. They have produced Olympic medalists, so I imagine Hawkeye would at least have something to keep him on his toes. They also have a really great non-traditional learners program with specific opportunities and benefits for veterans and military personnel, so I think Clint would probably be able to take advantage of that, right?
Point is, you're welcome, I guess, because I'm your nuclear deterrent. It's working. We're safe. America is secure. You want my property? You can't have it. But I did you a big favor. I have successfully privatized world peace.
So now we get to Iron Man, America's favorite superhero with daddy issues and a sometimes functioning supersuit. Now, Iron Man is kind of an interesting case because he actually canonically did go to MIT and pursue higher education, but I thought he would be fun to do as a bonus round, so I'm gonna break down why it makes perfect sense that Tony Stark would go to MIT as opposed to somewhere else that's really good for STEM, like Stanford or Caltech or UC Berkeley. Ultimately, MIT really prioritizes accepting good, kind people as their students. And if there's anyone out there who doubts that Tony Stark has a heart of gold under all that iron, then you'll have to go through me. Actually, you know what? I'm not a highly powered superhero slash mogul, so, you know what? Let's just go with you'll have to go through Tony. I mean, the guy did successfully privatize world peace. And he has a Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor named after him. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to make sure that you're notified every time I post for lots more content just like this. And I know, there are so many MCU characters that I just completely neglected, so let me know if you want to see a part 2 with all those characters and more. And let me know if you want to see me do other franchises too. So just let me know down in the comments what kinds of videos you would like to see, and also let me know if you agree with my picks for the Avengers. Where would you like to see them go to college in this imaginary alternate universe where they finally get to settle down and have a moment's peace? If you're in high school and you too are wondering where you should go to college, you can always feel free to get in touch with me at my email, info@myiveeducation.org, so you too may know the thrill of what it feels like to be a hypothetically retired Avenger. That's all for now, and I will be seeing you guys again really soon. Bye for now.